live with.
Right. Talked about, read about David's disobedience and how it affected not only him, but other people, the nation, and how God dealt with it. And I've got some questions more specific about that kind of stuff, but yes, that was a lot of what we looked at the last couple of weeks.
You know, when they told him that his family would be involved, you know.
Right.
Anyway, they said that when or his wives and stuff or whatever, but when his concubines got visited by the bad guy, you know, so that was part of what God predicted. The speaker said would happen.
It says, before your very eyes I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight, which Absalom did.
Yes.
Right. Anything else?
Well, it just shows you that how human David was. He still
Yes.
loved his son.
Yes.
Shows you how human David was.
Good guy.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Absalom was not who he should have
Right.
been.
And that's something that Charlie brought out, and may have, you know, the last two times I've gone through this with her, but the fact that it looked like Absalom had been planning a lot of this from the very beginning. And I don't know that I would put that together. And that when he invited David and his brother Amnon to his house, that maybe he was already planning on trying to kill both so he could take over. Because Amnon was the oldest, and then they had another one, and she said he must have died at some point because he's not mentioned other than he was born. That's all we know about him, and I don't remember his name. Anything else? Any verses that jump out? Okay, I want to go back to before a lot of this happened, because that's where we started 2 weeks ago. But one of the first things, Joab and Abishai went into battle, and Joab said, you take these people, these men, and I take the other. What did he say to Abishai? You remember?
Is that the place where he said, if I need help,
Yes.
come and help me, and if you need help, I will come down?
Right. And then, but the important thing was he said, let's fight for God, and God will deliver us. God will help aid us in all of this. Later, Joab doesn't seem to be depending on God very much at all. So it was just, that was kind of a surprising thing that was read. And I wish I had the verse. I thought I had it on there, but I don't. Where he actually said what he actually said. And then 2 Samuel 11:1, it says, the springtime. What happens in the springtime?
Kings go out to war.
Kings go out to war. And where does David? And on his housetop. He was at the palace. And then he took Bathsheba and basically probably raped her. I mean, it's not spelled out, but, you know, back then, women had very little rights, and especially when it was the king, he could do whatever he wanted. I mean, that's what kings did. And,
The king.
I'm sorry?
I'm sure she found it hard to fight because not only was it the king, he had people around him that
Yes.
would not let anything happen to the king, so.
And if you look all through the rest of the stuff, when God brings judgment or confronts, it's always David. He never says anything about Bathsheba sinning. It's always David. So tell me the story that Nathan told David.
Would you repeat that, please?
What story did the prophet Nathan tell David? What do you?
Oh,
About
that,
having
about
one
little
sheep
sheep.
and lamb, and somebody came and took it.
Yes.
to eat and fed it to
and
him.
had just one little ewe lamb. And I don't know whether this was from a picture that I saw in, like in Sunday school when I was little, but growing up, every time it talked about the little ewe lamb, I was always thinking of a little black lamb, not a female lamb, you know, and I just had it in my mind that the ewe lambs were black and the other lambs were white.
That made
So it was probably something in Sunday school that had a picture, as I'm a very visual learner, so that's probably what it was. Why do you think he used that particular illustration with David?
I think God.
Because he was a shepherd.
He was a shepherd, yeah.
He was a shepherd, and I think that would have made a big impact on him. And then what, according to the law, if you were caught stealing somebody's lamb, how much did you have to pay back?
4 times.
Fourfold, yeah, 4 times. And what did Nathan tell David? There's going to be 4 things that happen in your life. As soon as he confronted David, what did David do? As soon as he was confronted?
about what he had done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as Nathan confronted him, David said, I have sinned. I've sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said, the Lord's taking your sin away. You're not going to die. However, and that was also guilty of rape or whatever. They were supposed to die, both of them. But the Lord, it says you're not going to die. But there's 4 things that are going to happen. You probably don't remember all 4 of these. But the first is the sword will never depart from his house. The second was that out of his own household, he's going to bring calamity, which, Absalom and Amnon and everything happened with all of
He had to
that.
leave him, clean out his whole household.
Yeah. And then the third one was that your wives, we ever talked about that, your wives are going to give to someone that's close to you. And what was the 4th one?
So that when the son would die?
The baby would die. So a lot of results or a lot of consequences for his sin. And then Amnon and Tamar. What happened there?
Well, he actually must have been in lust.
Yes,
Just after he took her, he didn't want her anymore.
right. He basically did the same thing his father did. He raped, this was his half-sister, Absalom's sister. And then after he did that, he get rid of her, I don't want her. And Absalom said, it's all right, you just stay here. So what happened later?
Absalom took care of it.
Yes, he did. How did he do that?
He invited him to dinner
Invited him to dinner.
and then killed him.
So be careful who you invited him to dinner and then killed him, or had him killed. And then, what did David do?
He was distraught.
Hmm?
He was upset.
He was distraught, he was upset, but what did he do? Nothing. He didn't, as far as we know, he didn't confront Amnon, he didn't do anything. And maybe it was because he felt so much guilt over what he had done.
Didn't he cry?
Yeah, he did, yeah. But I'm saying as far as his son Amnon, what Amnon did to Tamar, he didn't punish Amnon at all. And like I said, maybe it was because he felt so much guilt over what he did with Bathsheba that he didn't feel like he was worthy or, to just.
You don't get the sense, though, that he turned against Bathsheba, though.
Huh?
You don't get the sense that he turned back
No,
against
I don't think so.
Bathsheba. I mean,
No.
Because Bathsheba was the mother of Solomon.
Right. Yep. Heard lots of things about how David was a great king, but probably not a very good dad. And
He sure mourned for that baby.
yes, he did. And
You
what
don't think
happened when
about
the
him
baby
being
died?
close to his children.
Hmm?
You don't think of him being that close to his children, because he surely had a gazillion.
He had a bunch, yes. I think he was close to it, but he never, I think he did never discipline him.
The Lord, I think, worked on that because he wanted him to suffer to some degree.
Yeah. And I've seen that with lots and lots of people, that they don't discipline their kids and they turn out to be bad because they don't get. So then Absalom, when he came back, after everything got back into town, he wanted to talk to the people. How did he do that?
He said, what did he say?
How did Absalom win over the hearts of the people?
Buttered him up.
Told
He
them what
said-
they wanted to hear. Told them what they wanted to hear.
Told them what they wanted to hear, that's right. He sat at the gate, and every day
He
that
told
came
them they
by,
were
said,
guilty.
well, you know, what's the problem? And they'd say, well, this guy wronged me. And he said, well, I understand, I agree, he did, and he should have to pay you. And then probably, an hour later, the other guy come in and said, what's your problem? He said, well, this guy did all this to me. He said, well, I agree with you. I mean, he didn't care who it was. He wasn't trying to really be a judge. He was just trying to butter the people up and get them to like him. And it worked, didn't it? And so what happened after that? I'm getting ahead of myself.
Is that when he fled?
David fled, yes. And he took over.
Yeah, I was going to say Absalom took over in Jerusalem.
Yes. So go back to Psalm 51. This is a song of lament by David about his sin with Uriah and Bathsheba. And he says, talking to God, against you and you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight, so that you are proved right when you speak and justified when you judge. The first part of that, against you and you only have I sinned, is that a true statement?
No, because he sinned against Bathsheba, her husband.
Yeah, he sinned a lot of people.
Her husband
What do you
did.
think he meant by that, though? I mean, it's in the Bible, so it's got to be in there for a reason, right? I think David realized at this point that everything he did ultimately was against God. Yes, he did bad to these people too, but ultimately it was sinning against God, and that's the apex of everything, I guess, is that we sin against God. And then a little bit later he says, "Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me." Is that something that we should be praying today? Not today. What?
The Holy Spirit lives in us.
The Holy Spirit lives in us. It's not like in the Old Testament when the Holy Spirit would come on you and then leave. No, the Holy Spirit lives in us and He's there permanently.
And He
So
gives you
we don't
heck.
have to pray that. But
And he gives you heck.
yes,
Guilty conscience a little
yes,
more.
He does. I like verse 13. It says in verse 11, verse 4, against you and you only have I sinned. And he goes on and he confesses his sin and everything. And then it says in verse 13, then, after all of this stuff has happened, after he's confessed all of this stuff, he says, then I will treat transgressions your ways and sinner will be given back to you. He realized that he couldn't teach sinners, he couldn't do that stuff until he got his life right with God. And so that's a very important little word there. When David fled, first of all, what did Ziba, that's Mephibosheth's servant, say? You remember? David came and said, where's Mephibosheth? And Ziba said, well, he stayed behind because he thought, this is my chance to take over for my grandfather and become king. So David said, fine, all of that land, everything that owned to Saul that I gave to Mephibosheth is now yours, right? Later, when he comes back, Mephibosheth meets him. And what does Mephibosheth say? Do you remember?
Yeah, he said, oh, no, I didn't do that.
I didn't
I
say
was
that.
put up to that. Someone's telling on me.
Yes.
Not true.
And it said that he hadn't taken care of his feet or shaved or anything since David left. And that Zeba was basically tricking David. So David finally said, fine, just split it down the middle. You know, it's kind of like, okay, I don't want to mess with it anymore. Just split it and go on. Another person that was there when David was leaving was named Shimei. And what was he doing?
He cursed
Cursed
David.
David.
He cursed David.
All the way
And
down, back to
Yeah.
the.
yeah, for a long way, I don't know how long it would have been. For a long way, he was running alongside him, cursing him, and what else?
Threw stones at him.
Threw rocks and dirt on him the whole time. And, no, I forgot. I think it was Abishai. Yeah, said, let me go over and kill him. And David said, no. If this is from God, then it is, you know, I deserve it. And if it's not, then God will take care of it.
God, he was in-
David, he did that a lot in his life. He would say, you know, God's going to take care of it. I don't have to. Didn't always do that.
We
but
need to do that more often.
yes, we do. And Shimei also said, accused David of killing the whole south house of Saul. Did he do that? No.
No, he could have.
He could have, but he didn't. God put him
How
to
many
death.
times could he have killed Saul?
I know.
Which would have, I mean,
But Shimei was Benjamite, so.
Right, he was running by with Benjamin. Yeah, and he probably thought, you know, we need to, yeah, we ought to have a Benjamin king, not a king from Judah. Even though all the way back to Israel, when he blessed the children, his 12 sons, he basically said that the king would come out of Judah. So they knew that, but maybe just didn't want to believe it. Who was Ahithophel? Remember him? He was a very, very wise man. He was yeah.
Was he a priest?
No, he was just an advisor.
Okay.
But they said that the things that he said were like coming from God himself. I mean, he was very wise in everything he shared. He was one of David's advisors. He was also, if I remember right, Bathsheba's grandfather. And when he was kicked out, Ahithophel went to help out Absalom. And when David found out, he said, you know, you pray God, don't let him listen to Ahithophel's advice. And I just went blank on the guy who went and talked to him.
Hushai?
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 He went and Absalom said, what should we do? And Ahithophel said, go out there right now before he has a chance to do anything and attack him, you can kill him. And Hushai said, no, wait a minute. You know, your father is a warrior. And number one, he's not going to be there with the rest of the soldiers. He's going to be off by himself. So if you attack the soldiers, David's not going to be there, and you're going to end up fighting against the soldiers and making other people mad.
plus David had mighty men.
Yes, and what you need to do is get the whole entire nation behind you, and then go out there. And he decided that was better advice than Ahithophel. So what did Ahithophel do?
Killed himself.
Went home and got himself stuff in order and killed himself.
And, yeah, hung himself, so he was taken care of. By the way, one of the things that she brought out was that the fact that it was Bathsheba's grandfather, I think grandfather is right, and so maybe he was using this as an opportunity to get back at David for what he did to Bathsheba.
Probably.
And Uriah, really. And then what happened to Absalom?
Well, I can't even say his name, Ahithophel or whatever his name is. He is the one that advised Absalom to go into his father's concubine.
Oh, yes, he did. Ahithophel said go into the concubines, and he did that. Okay, I forgot about that part. So what happened when Absalom got the whole nation of Israel together, and they went out to fight David.
Well, he rode his horse, a mule, under a tree and hung it.
Oh, yeah.
Stuck by his head somewhere.
Beautiful hair.
I've heard his hair, and I've also heard it up like in a...
Wide
in a,
neck.
Yeah, what do they call it? Just a little...
I think it says his name.
Fork in the tree.
What's his name?
Got hanged in a tree.
Anyway, it got stuck by his head. I don't know. Head, hair, I think there's different translations say different things there. So what happened to him?
Well, Joab died.
Joab died. Says he put three javelins in him. It's kind of, it's like, okay. Joab is the leader of the army, right? Well, yeah, because he already killed Amasa, and a lot of things that he did. But it says he put 3 javelins in him, and then they got him down and his men killed him. I'm thinking, 3 javelins didn't kill him, but that just kind of jumped out at me. They did that and then killed him.
Well, they may have been well placed.
Yeah, they might have.
Leg,
He could have been, yeah, he could have been wanting to suffer something.
Yeah,
Just
well, didn't he stab him with his own knife? I heard that. I thought I read that Joab stabbed him with a knife.
No, that was Amasa. Got him over to the side of the, because he was slow at getting the army together, and Joab came over and grabbed him by his beard, like he was going to kiss him, and instead he pulled out his knife and killed him. Another person that David put in charge of the army instead of Joab did the same thing. I do remember there's one passage in there, and David says something like, what am I going to do with you, basically, you sons of whoever they are. They talk about Joab and Abishai, and I think the other one was already dead back then. And Psalm 5, the last thing I want to point out, David, this is something that he said that this was the reason that he's allowed to enter God's presence, and it's really the only reason that we have. And Psalm 5, verse 7, it says, by your great mercy, I will come into your house in reverence, and I will bow down to your holy temple. That's the only reason that we are allowed to enter the very presence of God. And remember, in the New Testament, when Jesus died on the cross, it said that the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. God tore that open, allowing us as believers to have direct access to God. We don't have to go through a priest anymore. We don't have to listen to a priest anymore to tell us what God says. We have the Word. You have the Word. You don't have to listen to me, okay? I hope you do, but you don't have to listen to me. You can learn for yourself, right? And you ought to be learning for yourself, not always depending on somebody else. And that would be not only me, but your Sunday school teachers or whoever else. All right. One other thing I wanted to share, just because I thought it was kind of amusing. I just told Gene about it earlier. I told you I was flipping through the stations last week and came across a guy that was talking about Revelation. And one of the things he talked about was the red heifers, and that they had to import them, or I'm sorry, no, they needed perfect red heifers. There could not be a single white hair on the body anywhere. They'd be perfect. And they actually got them from Texas. And he said that some people say that they imported them from Texas, and that was not exactly right, because it's illegal to import any animals into the country of Israel. But it's not illegal to take your pets in. So somebody had 5 pet red heifers that they took into Israel. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it is.
All right, well, let's join hands.
It's not exactly.
We'll sing our
My older brother, he loved them.
Did he? Oops, yeah, just heard it say.
He loved those animals.
Take up thy cross
surrender